What it do? It's your boy Tony Anation. I'm back with another video, and as promised last week, this week's video is what I wish I knew before buying a house. Let's get to it. These are not in any particular order, like I always like to say, but yeah. So let's just get into it. Say number one, the credit score you are tracking is most likely wrong. What do I mean by that? You're probably using Credit Karma. You're probably using your FICO score from Bank of America, Discover, whatever. Those numbers are usually a little bit off. They're not exact. So if you run your credit where you're trying to buy a house in the beginning and you say your FICO is at like 800, you might run your credit and it's at like 770 or something like that. So don't trust that. Make sure you run your credit with whatever lender you're going to be using to get an accurate score. That's number one. So yeah, it varies. Number two, again, not in any particular order. So you don't need 20% to buy a house. I don't know why I always thought that. Like I thought that for the longest. I think for the last no, for at least I knew this at least a year before buying a house when I knew I didn't need 20%. That's because like one of my friends put me on that. And the reason I always thought of that is because I never wanted PMI, or I guess I never wanted PMI, which is private mortgage insurance, which is added if you put less than 20%. Hence why I believe I thought that I needed 20%. So you don't need 20%. You could do it with 3.5%. You could do it with 5%, whatever you're able to put down. You could do that. Just remember your PMI is going to be a little high if you do put a very low amount than like say 10% or, but that's not the point. The point is you don't need 20% to buy a house. All right. Keep all your credit pulls within 2 to 3 weeks. So what I mean by this is like once you start running your credit with different lenders to see who's going to give you the best, quote or the best breakdown of how much you're going to be paying monthly if you go with them, you can run I think as many, with as many lenders as you want. Because I did it with like I think 4 different ones, and most of them would tell me that if I do it, about 4 weeks, I'm fine. Like I mean, that's what they recommend, is that if I'm pulling with the lenders, do it within a month or a 30-day period. But I did do some after the 30-day period, and they didn't really affect my credit scores. Like it didn't really affect anything. So at least 7 weeks for me that I saw that you could pull your credit and it would not be affected. I think throughout the whole 7 weeks, I only dropped like 5 points from my credit score. So when you're running your credit scores with your lenders, they do 3. There's TransUnion, Experian, and then there's another one that they do. I don't think it's your FICO, but it's 3. So then they pick the median one. So you might have like, for me, I had like a 778, a 792, and a 803 or something like that. So they take those and then they go with my middle one. I think that was the 792 is what they went with. So yeah, when you're doing that with the different lenders, just make sure you can run with as many as you want, but just keep them within at least 7 weeks is what I saw without dropping my scores like too crazy. And then this is another one. Locking in your rate is important. What do I mean by locking in your rate? Say you start like for me, what I saw is I wish I did this earlier because I didn't know. But when I started, I never ran my credit until I was sure like I found a house that I want to go with and whatnot. I would always just go and ask them for quotes before I ran my credit. That's something you can do. Let's say you want to go to like Loan Depot. You can ask them like, this is how much I make. This is how much my credit score is about on Credit Karma. I know I said it's not accurate, but it's around there. And how much would it be? Like, how much would my monthly payments look like? And they can give you those numbers, like a rundown of those numbers. So do that until you're sure before you run your credit with them. But once you figure it out and you're comfortable with that, the market is changing. So for me, I think when I started shopping, the interest rates were like at a 4% or 4 point something. But I never ran my credit. And then the time I ended up locking it in, I locked it in at like 5%. And then it, took off and it was like 6%. So if you get a chance, once you're sure, you find a house or you find a lender and you want to lock in that rate, it is going to cost you though. They might be like 2,000 or I don't know, 1,000 or some. It's going to cost you a point, or it's going to cost you a certain amount to lock in your rate. But it's rather you do that than when you come back maybe 3 weeks after and the interest rates have gone up at like 7%. Then you'd be paying like 3 $100 a month more from that 1% difference that you could have probably dropped $1,000 on, and then just locked it in, saving you 300 after you pay off the 1,000, obviously, which would be like in 3 months you would have recouped. So locking in your rate, if you'd like to know more about that, I would love to explain that to you. And that's something I did. Going to the next thing is that if you're looking for like a new built house, this is the next point. If you're looking for a new built house, try to go with the lenders that they prefer. So for example, I bought my house with D.R. Horton, and their preferred lender is DHI Mortgage. So, and in the beginning, I was sketchy about that because I was like, I don't want them doing everything, building the house, and then they're the ones who are also lending me money, or their preferred lender is loaning me the amount, because I was like, what if they just work against me, or I don't know what I was thinking about that. So I was like, what, they were like, we'll also help you pay some of your closing costs. And I was like, yeah, nah, I ain't trying to do that. I don't want you guys to do everything. Funny enough, I circled around for like 3 weeks or a month, only to come back and like run my credit with them. And then they ended up having a better rate because they had locked in their rates at like 5%. And then I also bought down my rates. So I locked it in at like 4.75%. And then I think that cost me, I think $1,500, but plus the one that they had locked it in, because the rates were at like 6% now. So the total was like $5,000 for everything. But long term, it's going to save me, because I'd rather lock in at 4.75 than like, 6% or 7%, because it does make a big difference. That's like $400, $500, $600, $800 difference a month on your mortgage. That's crazy. That means I couldn't even qualify. But anyway, so I ended up going with the preferred lender that D.R. Horton had, and they did help me cover some of my closing costs. So that's a good thing. The other thing I wish I knew is that they do help you with like covering your closing costs, which saves you a lot, because say you're putting down like $25,000 on a $500,000 house, and then you still have closing costs, which can be almost like $15,000. They might say cover anywhere from $5,000-$10,000, meaning you only need to come up with like $30,000 instead of like $40,000. It's a big deal. So try that. And if you have questions, again, let me know. And then this another thing I wish I knew is like, don't look at houses outside your price range. And this is either before you run your credit or even after, once they tell you what you can qualify for, because maybe you're going to pay the difference. Unless you have the money, you can cough up the money, the difference. Say they qualify for a house that's $500,000, right? If you're going to look at a house that's $550,000, you have to come up with the extra $50,000, because they're only going to finance what they're going to finance. You know what I'm saying? They're only going to do what they're going to do. What they say they're going to do is what they're going to do. They're not going to do too much above that. So yeah, just make sure you're looking at houses that you can afford and are within your range. If you can do lower than that, even better. Which brings me into the next point, is that when you're buying a house, it's time consuming. Man, there's a lot to it. You're going to have to be patient. It's going to take 3 months, 2-3 months, whatever. Unless you have all your paperwork, which I did, but still you're going to go look at houses. You're going to do new open houses and see which house. Like, I was going to different houses. Some houses had like, dog hair. They had like a funny smell. The backyard was like bad. Some of them was like, they were like just painted. They were like older houses, but they were just painted to make it look nice. And yeah, so just know that when you're shopping for a house, you really have to be patient, because there's a lot that's going to go wrong. But that's just, it's just life. It's just stuff happens. So just know that it's not just having a down payment and having a good job. It's time to go and look at these houses, whether it's new builds. And if it's a new build and they're still building, you're going to have to wait out until they finish building it out before you move. So plan that accordingly, And then even new build houses like mine, you can buy that with an agent. Actually, that's how I ended up getting this, is because an agent sent me their listing. And I saw this and I was like, is this available? Actually, it was another house, and then they ended up selling that one. But then this one got on the market the next day, and they hit me up. And so, yeah, just to summarize that part, you can buy a new build with an agent. And sometimes agents are pretty cool because they write the stuff for you. They do get paid though once the house is sold, but they don't get paid by you. They get paid by the person selling the house. So but they help you negotiate, especially if they're good and they've sold a bunch of houses. So make sure you ask them like their track record and all that stuff, because they will vouch for you. They're the ones who are going to go out there, house is $500,000. They're going to say we want it for like 480, and then they might negotiate and get it for like 490, but you have a better chance of doing that with them than maybe yourself. Unless you just go to a new build, maybe they might allow you to do that. But they know some things that you don't know. So I would recommend an agent, and you can find an agent. I mean, anywhere. I could recommend a guy. His name is Jamil. Jamil is a friend of mine. He's pretty cool. And I'll try and put his information on here, or just hit me up and I can recommend him to be able to help you out. If you're in the Sacramento area, if you're in a different area, I don't know, just look on Redfin or online and just ask people questions, and you will find the right person for you. So yeah, and then this another thing while on that topic is don't be afraid to send offers under asking price. Meaning, if a house, I like using this figure because it's easy and my math is, Anyway, if a house is 500,000, don't just say, oh yeah, we're gonna do 500,000. Depending on the market though, because for me, my house, they were selling it for 25,000 more than what I wanted to pay for it. Like what I wanted to offer. So I had my agent send an offer for about $7,000 less from the 25K. And then they were like, oh, I don't know if they're going to take that. I was like, nah, just do it. If I don't get it, I'm not losing out on anything. And then funny enough, they went in and put $14,000 less under asking, so that if they refuse, then we can negotiate until we get that 7,000. Surprisingly, they agreed, like on the 14,000. So that was cool. But then when we did an appraisal for the house, it ended up coming down like 25,000 less than how much I bought it for. So you should get an appraisal. I think that is required though by your lender too, because they want to make sure that your house is actually worth 500,000. Because somebody could be selling for 500,000 and it's only worth 400,000. Unless you're gonna pay the 100K difference, they're not gonna cover the rest, and they're gonna do the appraisal. And guess who pays for the appraisal? You do. An appraisal is about $550. So account for that. Oh man, I feel like I'm detailed in this video and I'm more calm. I think I'm getting better by the time I do these. The other thing I want to talk about is I think I said this: take your time looking through houses and get your own inspection. You can get it from somebody you trust or somebody who's been in the business as a second option. Once the lender's appraiser was kind of like your appraiser too, because they're like in the middle. But once they do that, you can send somebody else too that can go into it and be like, oh, they missed this, or the roof is old if it's an older house and they missed that. Because once you buy that house, anything else that breaks is going to be your responsibility. So you just want to make sure that you're aware of those things. Yeah. And then I think we're doing good. So the other thing I would like to say is that, man, I wish I knew this. I did have an idea, but I just wasn't ready. You could save up for down payment. You could save up for closing costs. You could do that, but it doesn't stop there, fam. There is furnishing your home. It was a house. Now you bought it. It's a home. That stuff is expensive. You got I wrote some stuff. You got to buy a bed, because I didn't move my bed. You got to buy a washer, a dryer, couches, TV. Say you want a TV. When I moved in, I was thinking 80-inch, but I realized very quickly 65 is where I'm at. 65 is where I'm financially at. You know what I mean? So yeah, cookware sets, and then for me, I also furnished my guest bedroom as soon as I moved in, so that, dropped some, good amount on that. And then the small things that, you got to account for. And then there's also like utilities, you got to pay for SMUD, PG&E, that's heater, AC, water, like stuff like that. You just need internet, like those stuff you need to add to your monthly budget, and it racks up, man. It goes up. Like I went up, like I'm like, damn. And especially when like I moved in like around winter, so the heater probably spent like $300 a month on heat. That's when I realized I could live off of like 68 degrees weather. It's not too bad. You know what I'm saying? So just account for all that stuff when you're buying a house. And I hope that this video has been helpful. These are things that I wish I knew. If I come up with more and I missed, I'm going to leave them in the description. Feel free to reach out, ask me any questions while I'm available to answer for free. You never know about the future. Things might just get too good for me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, until next time, subscribe, like, share. See you in the next video on how to build your credit. Peace.